Imagine your favorite characters up against an unbeatable opponent. A legendary figure that has been foreshadowed since the beginning of the series is standing in the way of saving the world. One of the strongest characters in history, as well as one half of a legendary battle that still sends shivers down your spine to this day. You and your closest quote-unquote friend face off against them after receiving two of the biggest power amplifiers of all time, and then it all gets smacked away by an upset child trying to bring back his mommy. Yeah, I'm talking about Black Zetsu and Kaguya. In my opinion, Kaguya is not a plot hole, but a general bad decision for the final villain of the series. I'll break down in this video and try to not just shoehorn into just Kaguya being a bad character. With all that being said, welcome to another episode of Analyzing These Animes. I'm your host, Liquid Zero. The first point I will touch on is that you essentially have the same thing happen twice. Obito backstabbed by Madara, revealing he was just using him. Kaguya or Black Zetsu then backstabbing Madara to give Kaguya the center stage. The issue is not the fact that it's a similar plot point that was just done, but the fact that Kaguya takes Naruto in a direction that it did not need to go. No, this is not a dig at Boruto. As to be completely candid, I really do enjoy the Blue Vortex. However, if you asked me 10 years ago if I really did enjoy the ending of Naruto, I would say no, besides the final fight with Naruto and Sasuke, since they brought everything back full circle. Now, my main points or gripes are, Kaguya was not foreshadowed at any point. No, a small snippet talking about Kaguya from the Sage of Six Paths does not count as foreshadowing. And even then, it still occurred at the back half of the war arc. And no, Kimimura's plan was not some nugget that Kishimoto planted in part 1. 2, she took Naruto down a path it never should have gone with the alien plot. The biggest issue is that there is no connection with the story of the Sage of Six Paths. He has been mentioned since the Pain's eyes were dubbed the Rinnegan, so his story had set up good storytelling, intrigue, and grace. I remember specifically thinking before it was shown they were Madara's eyes that the Sage had chosen to reincarnate in the realm by bestowing the Rinnegan to a random person as either an act of retribution or forgiveness to the ninja world. This is a simple fact, and probably the biggest problem is that Kaguya just is not interesting. She has no personality. She is just thrust into the story at the end after killing off the true main villain in Madara, who we have seen built up to be the final big bad since the inception of Naruto. It would be like expecting to fight Illidan at the end of Devil May Cry 3 instead of fighting Virgil last. That just seems random, you see what I'm saying? Like I'm just throwing a random demon in instead of the real final boss of the game. Anyway, Kaguya's strength is unrivaled in Naruto. There's no single character as strong as her. The weakness that Kaguya was given is that she is not a combat specialist or a fighter, which makes sense because at that point there was no long elaborate Otsutsuki bloodline. It was just Kaguya and her sons that were the Otsutsukis. So Kaguya, maybe because quote unquote gave her chocolate to the world as a reasonable assumption, is that she is unquestionably the strongest in the current verse. Basically, I'm trying to say that she has no reason to train because all power belongs to her. She is the almighty. She basically is just flexing her abilities in her battle against Team 7 and Obito. The question is to me, is that this the best approach to a character like Kaguya though? She's only introduced for a few chapters and she is given superiority to current Madara and Hagoromo, to by this point are the absolute strongest in the verse, with Hagoromo being the father of ninjutsu, with Madara chasing the dream of becoming the same sage as Hagoromo. The truth is, prior to Boruto and the fleshing out of the Otsutsuki, Kaguya was just a strong character who wanted to harvest the Earth's life force for her own gain. She's just a plot device to continue Naruto forward as a new threat so that it can be bridged into creating another series. I honestly think if they really wanted to push the archetype of the Otsutsuki in general, then they could have made Madara willingly become an Otsutsuki and it result in Kaguya. But it should have been the plan all along instead of the infinite Tsukiyomi. Like what I'm saying is that Madara should have been informed that he would be creating an Otsutsuki. And then Kaguya could come out after the fact. She doesn't necessarily have to not be a part of the plan or a part of the plan. It could have went either way, but I just wish that it was more fleshed out instead of just it being like a surprise at the very end that was just thrown together. And the problem with just throwing it together is you make the infinite Tsukiyomi just end up being the biggest sham of all time, and it just honestly isn't rewarding for the viewer anymore to have the biggest plot point of part 2 to be ripped away like it was. It fits the theme of the series so well. Every character wanted peace, but each had their own means of obtaining it. Madara was just going to be without any say-so from any other party, you know what I'm saying? And with his personality, it makes sense. He has major trust issues because of all the past wars, so he can only believe in himself to complete the task. With me saying all of that, you can make a case that Madara and Kaguya technically would have accomplished the same thing anyway, in a sense the end of the world. Kaguya by eating their chakra and their life force, and Madara for basically trapping them in the eternal matrix. I never thought about that before though. Madara World was literally about to make a ninja matrix that characters would eventually break free from and challenge him again. Maybe the main character in that series could have been Naruto's son Boruto, who was born in the matrix but somehow escapes into the real world. See, the ending of Naruto has been fixed by me. Now, covering Zetsu. He is essentially thrust into the role of a plot device. At first, we think he's just a regular Akatsuki member that specializes in long-range combat and scouting. Next, he's Madara's will manifested in his old age in order to make sure all of his plan goes accordingly, which I personally didn't mind too much, even though it didn't make sense, but yeah, essentially functioned as a symbiote. He can control a body like an Obito and force an action. This resulted in Madara being revived and keeps the plot moving forward. We get to see the legendary ninja curb stomp the current ninja world, new and improved, mind you. And then it's revealed Zetsu is just Kaguya's son that wants to bring her back. In my opinion, Zetsu being a rolling plot device is a bad decision. Making him a tool for Madara and Kaguya honestly is a mistake. The Curse of Hatred, which is the main focus point of part 2, is moot and is essentially just made up and controlled by Zetsu, manipulating the entirety of the Naruto timeline. However, I'm not a fan of conveniently using the same character trait, i.e. Zetsu backstabbing and moving to the next big bad, which he essentially does from Obito to Kaguya. It's the uninspired direction of this that kills me because it's literally just the same. There's no difference between Zetsu for Kaguya versus Zetsu for Madara. He's serving the same function. It's just a repeated plot point passing on to the next villain. It just comes off as a little bit lazy, but like I said, they needed a bridge gap for Boruto, so I kind of understand why they did it this way. You essentially needed something foreign from the current ninja world because obviously once Naruto wins, the world comes together. So they needed basically a way to make a new threat, and making the Otsutsuki the threat was the decision they decided to go with. And I actually think that the biggest issue with her and the ending of Naruto is that there's no reward for Kaguya's appearance. Where's the payoff for Kaguya? I guess you could say that we get a final clash between Naruto and Sasuke, but to be honest, that was destined to happen regardless. And it is completely disconnected from Kaguya, and the only connection is that Zetsu played a role in kicking off the blood war between the Uchiha and the Senju. I legit remember myself facepalming once Kaguya emerged from Madara after Zetsu was backstabbed, dreading that a new villain was coming. But like I said, what was the payoff? I'd argue there isn't one. It just feels like a cheap way to get rid of Madara and provide potential for a part 3 of the series. But other than that, and being contained within its own story of Shippuden, Kaguya had no real connecting plot point to make her chemistry gel well with the rest of the cast. Now, finally, what would have fixed Kaguya and subsequently the ending of Naruto? Simple, let it end with Madara. But yeah, let's try and address everything correctly. I believe that Kaguya could be introduced, but I would personally make her a more original looking character. She's initially based on Kimimura's clan as well as some Japanese folklore. I honestly don't like the rehashing that was done, but for the sake of this video, I will work with what we got. I think what you need to do is plant the seed much earlier. Simply plug her in where the sage is first discussed during the Pain arc. I think a good point will be after Nagato's defeat and Obito faces against Conan. Conan can mention that you don't know anything about the sage. Yes, the sage made ninjutsu, but there's one beyond him who was influencing everything in the past, and Obito could say she's bluffing or something. Then you can drop more nuggets before the war arc. The war arc can still play out the same with the Black Zetsu plot twist / reveal. If you really think we need a bit more, you can have Obito or Madara have visions of the past while they're fighting the Ninja Alliance as they gain more and more of the sage's power and get closer to becoming Kaguya. Yeah, that's it. Please like the video and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you on the next one. Liquid Zero out.